Hello, welcome back to the James Ram Reviews for yet another episode. In today's episode, yes, I'm doing a night recording for a change because the past couple of videos I decided to do during the day for a change, but I'm going back to the usual during the night because I kind of just finished Daredevil Born Again, and so I've got the backdrop of Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus, and so in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about Daredevil season 1 of Born Again, right? And I got the trajectory and the understanding of how I felt about the show, so that's why I'm going to review it as soon as I just finish watching it. And yes, there will be a couple of spoilers of this season because, like my other Daredevil videos, we did do some spoiler deep dives, but in this video, there will be that kind of Daredevil Born Again discussion as well as like ranking every season. So, for example, like the Defenders season 1, season 2, season 3, and Born Again. So, it's like a combined universe of videos all packed into this one experience so that if you haven't seen the other videos and you haven't had the time to watch those, link those down below, but you can come in here and you can see all of my thoughts inside this one video of each season as well, so make that a bit fun for you. So that you know that all of that. So yeah, what is Daredevil Born Again all about here? So what you have here is you have pretty much Daredevil season 4, or as I'm going to get into this, more like a Daredevil season 3.5, where you've got Matthew Murdock coming back in the swing of things. Wilson Fisk is coming back in the swing of things, but it takes a twist where they decide to do a different case about other characters. So you've characters in here like Muse that's later on in the season, but there's this guy called Hector. There's this whole case that happens, and he's like this guy that's framed for murder, and like, oh, what is this guy up to? He wears this like white and black suit, and it turns out that he actually dies in one of the episodes and stuff like that. So you get that kind of thing, and there's about 9 episodes here. And to start off with, I will say that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are as good as they could ever be in this type of thing, but I actually feel like this might be the weakest of the Daredevil seasons, and the first reason is because they don't have it doesn't have that same vibe and energy the original season had, and the reason why I'm saying this is because it is Disney, it's not Netflix, so they hold back the violence, and you're just kind of watching what I would like to describe to you as PG-13 sketches and get and like a gimmick where you see the case happening with Matthew Murdock, but he never really wears the suit, and so he's kind of just messing around and acting silly, trying to figure out a case and things like that. It's like it's kind of dumbing down his smart intelligence he had from the original seasons, where you saw him just strategically get the job done and do what he had to do. But in this season, they drag out these big long bits, and it just doesn't take the time that it's deservedly so needing to do and process. So there's things like that that I wasn't a fan of, and another thing about this season is how the way they shoot this kind of thing. It's shot on location. There's just not enough blood and gory violence that made the original show pop and have style and actually have memorability. So there is that, and so yeah, I would say that, and I just feel like Wilson Fisk becoming the mayor. It's an interesting concept on paper, sure, but when you watch him just kind of like looking around, trying to change the world and do what's best for the people, yeah, sure, but the way they just go about doing it, and he has like these silly employees that just don't know what they are doing. He's trying to. There's literally there's this episode where he's eating fast food, and you're like, that is not what Wilson Fisk would be doing right now. Like, he would be ripping someone's throat off, or he would be going out of his way to, shout at these idiots because yeah, that's who he is. He's a very vindictive guy that's ready to tell people to shut the hell up, right? Because that's the kind of man he is. So there's things where they just don't give him the right script for the show, but the show gets to the point where I'm like, maybe there's hope for this, especially with the performances of Wilson Fisk and Carly Cox and Matthew Murdock and stuff like that. But there's a whole episode in here as well. This is another spoiler, I guess you could say, where the Punisher in episode 4. I wasn't really a big fan of it. It was like okay, he's kind of just in here for 5 minutes. There's a plot happening, I guess. He's kind of just in here for 5 minutes and just like, okay, where are we going with this? And then the episode after that, they decide to do episode 5, where, don't get me wrong, it's a fun episode, but it is a filler arc type of episode where episode 5, you have a bank robbery and you've got Matthew Murdock and this other guy who's actually related to Miss Marvel. I don't know why they did this. It just kind of just came out of the nowheres and just came out of the absolute wazoo, and they just decided to throw in a bank heist GTA mission episode, which it wasn't really the best episode. It was entertaining enough, but it's not what you come to watch the Daredevil series for. And then when you get to things like episode 7, for example, where they start to bring in the Muse storyline and they wrap up this whole thing with that character, he just kind of dies and you forget about him. And it's like, okay, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of problems where there's a lot of pacing issues. The way they decide to shoot things and how they only have 2 or 3 scenes of actual blood and actual things that made that original series pop, right? Said all of that. But episode 8, which I watched about a couple hours ago, right, where they bring back Poindexter and you see his arc and how he relates to the entire experience and how it actually relates all the way back to episode 1 with the whole arc of Foggy Nelson and what happens to him. Like when we bring it back to that, that is when the show is at its peak. And then episode 9, it's kind of just an okay enough type of episode where they do wrap up things, sure, but is it really the end of things to come? Because it does actually say that Daredevil's coming back for season 2, and you could probably think to yourself, that's a bit confusing because we already had a Daredevil season 2, but this is Daredevil season 2 for Born Again, so there's these things where, I just don't think Disney really knew what they were doing with this IP, honestly. Like, there is points where I'm enjoying it, and then there's other points like, is this really what this is all about? Is this really what I wanted out of a Daredevil show? You know what I mean? So you get these scenes, obviously, where you have the Punisher in episode 9 as well. I enjoyed that, but it just doesn't have the energy, the vibe where I'm like, I'm gonna binge this right now and I'm gonna watch this for hours on end and just speculate, drink a cup of tea, and twiddle my thumbs at what happens next in this plot. So there's a lot of things like that where I'm like, not really sure how to feel. So as it sat with me more and more here, I'm gonna be honest into saying that this is like this. I would say it's like a 7 out of 10, and I'm sure you can understand now why I think this is a Daredevil season 3.5, as there's half of the show, or there's a couple episodes where it ties into like what made the original show have its actual style, but then there's like episodes where they go off on another rabbit trail into another fairyland and all of this, and it just doesn't really add into what made that original show do its thing. So there's all of this. So we've got in deep and dived in deep indeed. So let's just do the ranking of every season of this show, just so you can understand where I'm coming from here. So as it kind of stood with me with the time of watching all of this, I'm going to say this. In fifth place, The Defenders 2017. The reason why I say this is because it actually has the worst writing. Like I would still say Daredevil Born Again. At least it had that kind of style where you still had certain elements of the original show in there. But this kind of goes off the rails and it just turns into this spin-off series and very forgettable villains, not a lot of things that you like about these things that you're watching. So definitely Defenders in last place and fifth place. Fourth place, I'm gonna have to give it to probably Daredevil Born Again, as it is the weakest season of the whole run of Daredevil. It doesn't do what the others did, and it has a couple elements I enjoyed, just not enough in here. So then after that, in third place, we're gonna give it to Daredevil season 2. While it has the faults and it just has the Elektra stuff, I still think it's really, really well good. And the Punisher felt a lot more actually taken seriously and felt like an actual interesting character compared to Daredevil Born Again. So honestly, that comes in third. That comes in third place, right? So then we get to second place. So what is in second place? So for me, as the time has sat with me, right, I would say that Daredevil season 3 is in second place, and this might be a kind of controversial take. I'm not sure how you want to interpret this, but it's because I think the pacing of season 3, it took, there was like half of the season was very, very like slow, then it gets into what it needs to be. So then after that, it does pay everything off. So that's the reason why it's still a really incredible season that really does the good job. And I feel like that the show should have ended in 2018 with that season. It was just perfect the way it ended and stuff like that. But the reason why I'm saying this is because in first place for me, the original Daredevil 2015 season, it just had everything you wanted in it. It did all the right beats and stuff like that, and honestly, nothing can beat that original season. But honestly, every season of the show is really good, just except for the Defenders because we reviewed that in Born Again. They are at lower on the scale of these type of things because I just that's how I felt honestly. And I'm not acting like Born Again is the worst made written thing ever, but in the Daredevil universe, it is a letdown. It is a letdown the more you think about it, and so that is my deep dive of Daredevil Born Again and the seasons as a whole. Let me know how you felt about this. Would you want me to cover season 2? Do you think I would be bothered in doing that? So, yeah, I suppose that this kind of review show type of thing is born again. You know, we brought it back to life with this whole Daredevil kind of thing, and maybe we'll review season 2. I'm thinking about that maybe, but we'll see. Especially after the results that were produced by Daredevil Born Again season 1. So yeah, bye. That is Daredevil. We have finally escaped the Hell Kitchen saga after so many videos.